Alright everyone, we're going to be reviewing the new machines today, and Ultron and Kang kill Null. Oh, what, you think I'm joking? I thought that Null was a Kang. Wait, no, that's not right. A tier 3 Kang killing a Null double support? No, that can't be right. Yeah. So everybody's telling me that Kang is a sentry counter, which he is, but he can also be a null counter. All you have to do is just figure out the right support and don't put him directly against null, because obviously putting Kang directly against null is going to have Kang, especially at a lower build, killed most of the time, especially when people's nulls, especially whales, are completely maxed out. But in Team Battle Arena, I've been getting a lot of dominations because I did a lot of unorthodox teams, and I've discovered a lot of tactics and kind of cheat codes in TBA that you guys can pick up and use if you want. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep it all to myself. So there's content creators who say that Ultron is backed behind RNG. Well, they're not lying. So the reason why I was able to kill Null with Ultron and Kang is because of Valkyrie support. When I use Valkyrie support in the middle, she completely diverts the meta so far back that I'm able to get a hit off with my other characters. So that way, Null gets perma-debuffed. And so long as I have good support and Null doesn't have Agent Venom, it's basically a guaranteed kill. So I'm doing Team Battle Arena first for the reviews, and then I'm doing Timeline Battle, and then I'm doing Otherworld Battle. So as you can see there, Sentinel, who's supposed to be a mutant counter and a Wolverine counter, is not a real serious contender, in my opinion, because he kind of rushes to the opponent sometimes, he stays back sometimes, and he doesn't really rush at Logan right away, and he doesn't interrupt Logan. So there's better alternatives against Logan. So basically, Sentinel is non-usable in team battle. But Ultron and Destroyer are. So how would you use them? Well, you would use Ultron the way that I'm showcasing. And you're going to see later that Ultron also has the capabilities of interruption. Like, he can interrupt Logan sometimes, but not all the time. But you want to have a consistent counter against Logan. And I just feel like outside of AC, there would just be better options to choose, right? You could use Juggernaut to interrupt Logan. You can use Madeline Pryor to interrupt Logan. You could use Shang-Chi even to interrupt Logan. You could use Kang even. You could use Warlock. There's a lot of different characters you can use outside of Sentinel. And as you can see there, Kang and Ultron also were able to kill Wolverine, like I mentioned, because Ultron can interrupt Logan. But as you can clearly see here, Sentinel cannot. So I have to rely on Null, but Null sometimes cannot interrupt Logan either. So Sentinel is not as good as I would have thought. And I know that a lot of these characters are still tier 3, but I'm still able to use them at max capacity at tier 3, level 80. And I actually think that, in my personal opinion, Ultron and Destroyer are actually the best of the update, and Sentinel and Vision are actually the worst. See, with Ultron, even when I pair him with Sentry and a support, he could direct the offense of Adam and Madeline in another direction, or basically force them to execute a skill. You're going to see it in this next clip coming up, but basically I'm showing you guys also some extra TBA tactics you could use in your top 100 journey if you decide to make it there. So in this next clip, you're going to see, again, Ultron is going to hit in this case, and then if Sentry dies, Ultron is going to force Madeline and Adam to continue doing skills, so they are open to getting one shot when Sentry revives. So this can be useful in some cases, but not all cases, because obviously my Ultron is level 80. So it's not, well, actually this one it was level 70, but later on it's level 80. And I'm not going to lie, I had fun using these characters for like, I don't know, the 3 weeks that I was using them. And it is a decent tactic to have another Reviver toon with you, despite him having low penetration, kind of low DPS. It's just that Ultron is a debuff master, but his debuff mastery rotation is difficult. So he has uses, but his uses are niche. And I would consider him around like the Cersei or Rachel Summers category. Same with Destroyer, but Destroyer is actually way more tactfully useful, I would say, because he really tanks a lot. And he's a cheap tier 4. His uniform is really cool. I think Destroyer is almost a debuff master. He's very close to being one. And he's a great counter against particularly Adam and Silver Surfer. But of course, Destroyer needs debuff removal, and he needs probably a support with him. Again, with Sentinel, I can't direct him at Logan because he'll die in one shot unless I give him a full Brilliant Conquest and a full tier 4. But just for him to be a counter potentially against some Madeline Pryors and some Logans is not good enough. I think that Timeline Battle and Team Battle Arena, outside of top 10 or 50 AC, these are the primary PvP modes that are important. AC varies a lot, and oftentimes 2 top 5 to 10 meta are paired together. So when there's no restrictions in team selections, these machines have less to work with. But if there are restrictions, they obviously can work a lot more in various different setups, so long as you know exactly what to do with them. Like if I decide, okay, Destroyer doesn't have debuff removal, but I only need him to do one specific task, you put him up against Warlock to do that good reflect burst damage, right? As you can see there, Juggernaut is a way better option than Sentinel. I could put Juggernaut with anybody I want because he's a cheap cost, and he's like an 80-90% guaranteed to interrupt Logan. So I'm basically stating that while Sentinel looks good on paper, he's not a great alternative to a lot of what's already available to you. So I've already showcased some issues that Sentinel has, but you're going to see a lot of successes that I'm having with both Ultron and Destroyer. So again, the point of these characters is basically to tank and keep getting damage taken to get the AI to just waste all of their skills, or it's to die quickly, get the hit off quickly with specific glitches I could use, and then help perma debuff to kill the opponent. So these are very interesting tactics for PvP that nobody will ever tell you. So you're going to get whales that showcase, hey, look how good my characters are doing, but it's kind of like manipulated. Here, I'm kind of showcasing only the wins with very few losses too, but I'm giving you guys an honest rundown. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, these guys are meta, or hey, these guys are like full-fledged overpowered counters. They're counters, but they have a lot of limitations, and you have to know exactly where to put them. If you don't, you're going to find that there's a lot of like wasted potential there. And you have to figure out also what CTPs work as well. So, for Ultron, it's destruction only, in my opinion. You can't really give him anything else. He needs DPS, he needs penetration, right? Destroyer, you can give him a lot of different defensive CTPs. People say that Destroyer is the best of the update, and I think the reason why is because he takes down a lot of the energy damage meta, and he's very CTP versatile. So Destroyer could work with an egg at Mighty. It can work with a brilliant regen. And you see, like, team battle has a huge problem of crashing. But anyway, Destroyer can work with Mighty or Brilliant Conquest. So he has some versatility, which is good. Unfortunately, Ultron does not. Even though here you could see Kang and Ultron killing a double support sentry with Agent Venom. Because Ultron triggers the debuff removal early, I'm able to stun lock Null for like 9 to 10 seconds. And two characters with a support are definitely going to beat this Null. And I knew it too. I knew it. So I decided, okay, team battle is where I'm primarily going to use them. But timeline battle, I'm going to use Ultron there for fun. But Sentinel, Destroyer, and Ultron that I'm testing, they're really not suited for this game mode. Like, Ultron can only really trigger debuff removal on some tunes, but not all, because he lacks the penetration. So, like, Sentry and Kang, he can't do it, but Adam and Surfer and Logan and Null, of course, he can trigger debuff removal on them. But if characters like Sentry and Kang have too much invincibility on their 2 and their 5, for example, then Ultron can't really penetrate that, because destruction only gives him like 30%, maybe a little bit higher, but he needs like maybe 50%. And as you can see, Ultron could somewhat take down meta in a triple meta setup. The problem really is when meta have supports. So when meta have supports, obviously Ultron can't really do a lot. And of course, a lot of supports are against villains. So Ultron's going to have a really tough time in seriously competitive PvP. But in mid-level PvP, you could definitely use him for fun if you really like the character. It's just you have to know how to play PvP, which a lot of people don't know how to do. So you have to look at it like, okay, Ultron can't take down this meta by himself. But if I set him up to take down a meta with my meta who I've mastered on manual play, right? You could see the way that I'm force canceling. You could see the way that I'm running away from skills. You could do all that, and if you know how to do all that, you can use Ultron, right? So there I got lucky with the penetration, and I stunned him. And Ultron's debuff mastery rotation is weird. It's like 4 cancel, 2 hold, and then 5 maybe delayed cancel, 2 hold, something like that. His 3 doesn't debuff. His 5 has a huge delay. His 4 has a little bit of a delay. So you have to overly rely on his 2 a lot. And you have to proc on it. What's good is that his 4th skill is cancelable, his 3 skill is cancelable, and his 5th skill is cancelable. But 4 and 5 have a little bit of delay, and 3 you just have to cancel for the stats. So he's very tricky, and the only way you're going to really know how to use him is like for manual only. So now we're back to reviewing Sentinel. And once again, like, Sentinel could kind of take down meta in a triple meta setup, maybe even without debuff removal, but, you know, this is like a stretch. And, I mean, he did good for an 80 against a full-fledged tier 4 with Brilliant Conquest, but Sentinel's kit is weird. He relies really, really heavy on the counter. His 3 and his 5, I think, have massive delay, which get him killed. He's very susceptible to interruption. He doesn't really work with a lot, and he's bad outside of mutants. So you'll see him getting creamed by, like, Agent Venom and, like, Hela, because he's so one-dimensional. And he doesn't have a lot of iframes either, so he gets reflected a lot. Like, I got lucky there because I was facing a weaker team, and this is a top 100 team. This is like a top 30 team, but I know that this team particularly was a little weaker, so I could get away with certain wins. But, like, I was testing Kang and Pryor, and they took me a few matches to really get down and test appropriately and get appropriate kills. These characters, like Sentinel, took me forever to try to get that, and it's not going to be perfect. Like, it's just not. So I'll get, like, a single kill on the meta. It will look really, really cool, but holding it and, like, autoing this is just not going to work. I mean, Sentinel, you could probably give authority, you could give regen or egg, but that's really it. You can't give him offense because he doesn't operate well with offense. I think giving him conquest would just be a waste because he's just so bad against non-mutants. So I think he does well with egg. He does okay with brilliant regen. And you can get some, like, niche value out of him, out of Sentinel. So I'll be showcasing Otherworld Battle as well when I'm done with these timeline battle runs. But now we're, like, moving on to Destroyer. And this is where you're going to see potential. Because Destroyer is somewhat of a debuff master, and his reflect is really, really strong. And I just killed Surfer with Ronin. Okay, I mean, that's cool. What's good about Destroyer is that if you tank him up to the max and you give him as much HP and you give him the Brilliant Conquest, what's good is that he'll activate the 6th skill. And the 6th skill is an iframe with penetration that one-shots. So it's extremely effective, and you'll see that it could kill a variety of different meta. It's just the problem is that Destroyer is basically useless against physical damage dealers. Unbelievably good against energy damage, but physical damage, he's like useless. Totally useless. And he'll die like in one shot. And it's sad because he's got cool skills, but he only has 4 still. So it's pretty disappointing. All of these characters needed an ignore iframe, and unfortunately only one got it. And on top of that, they all have contingencies. Like, Destroyer needs to get his Awakened skill off. Ultron needs penetration from destruction despite having an ignore iframe. Vision has nothing. So testing Vision anywhere was like pointless unless it was like AC. So that's why he's not even in this video. Even though Vision is primarily AC and he could help all of the machine allies there. Sentinel has a counter, but the problem with counters is that you have to get hit. So because there's no rule or no skill that allows the character to get debuff removal before he gets hit, the counter just gets interrupted. So that's another reason why Sentinel is so limited, is because he's just a mutant counter, and he's not even the strongest mutant counter. He's like a partial Wolverine counter, and he's a prior counter in Otherworld battle, not in team battle. So you have to keep this in mind. But if you do keep all of these kind of like rules and regulations in mind, you can definitely use these characters. And these characters are free. So it's not like, you'll be getting a huge L upgrading them. It's just, if you don't have a lot of niche meta, like if you don't have Cersei, and you don't have the Fantastic Four, and you don't have, like, maybe you don't have Doom, or you don't have Pryor, or you don't have, certain meta. These guys are not so bad, and they can maybe be used for AC and Otherworld battle, and maybe even some TBA purposes. They're not totally useless, but they are underwhelming, and I can understand why people were disappointed at these characters. And while you may see a lot of wins and you may see like these characters performing well on my end, it's only because I'm kind of manually controlling it. Now, let me just say, this isn't easy. For those who think, any meta could be any meta because you're controlling, no. Please stop with that. It's nonsense. If I said, hey guys, kill Null and Sentry with Ultron, Destroyer, and Sentinel, you guys could never do it. Because it's just not possible. So, anyway, as you can see, it's not just going to be my fights that with my characters. I'm also going to test against an AI against someone like Tinkerton, who is having Destroyer out in timeline battle for like a few days before switching him out. And, against my teams, Destroyer definitely has a chance, as you can see, and he's pretty strong, and this is like an Energy Silver Surfer, so this Energy Surfer is full DPS, and he is tanking a lot, even though Destroyer is still susceptible to reflect, and he's still susceptible to counters and to iframe ignore and things like that. So it's cool to see him in action like this, and he can take down, incomplete build characters like mine in certain moments. but this doesn't mean that they're meta. It just means that they could perform well in certain circumstances, and it's really important that you know exactly where to put them, or else you are not going to make it out alive. So, as you can see here, I'm taking Ultron, Destroyer, Sentinel, and Otherworld battle towards the last few weeks of the season when everybody's debuffed. They were doing okay there. I could keep them with the specific debuff lists. And I like to put them first because they could actually get their skills off if they're first. Because when the match starts, everybody does their X skill, and then they all execute their skills around the same time. If Ultron or Destroyer or Sentinel, if they're in the middle, they're not going to really do well. The only one that can, when you put them in third in the middle, is Ultron. Destroyers sometimes can creep up, but like he would need to execute a skill and survive, and you'd have to have no physical damage dealers there. Because as you can see, he died right away, but Ultron still did okay. So you could put Ultron in the middle and Sentinel and Destroyer up front. And as you can see, Sentinel and Destroyer easily take down like the likes of Jean Grey. You know, they were holding it a little bit down against Apocalypse for a little period of time. I mean, these are level 70, level 80s against tier 4s. So it was relatively impressive to see them do well, even though I couldn't get the win here. But this is like on the edge of Challenger. So once again, you have to find out who to put them with and who they should face. So if they face a Carnage and a Black Widow, they're going to die in 5 seconds. But if they get a Madeline Pryor and a Deadpool, then they could probably live because they're built to tank against those specific characters. So, as you can see, both Sentinel and Destroyer tanked Madeline Pryor, and, you know, my other meta helped kill both of them. So, they're great tankers, but they're not the best executors. So you have to build them mostly for tanking. So normally you would see me like doing crazy stuff with DPS, and I can only do with Ultron, but Sentinel Destroyer, you definitely want to build them defensively. There's no other way around it. It's also important to center these support DPS tankers around your top meta. They're designed to be protected by your meta and help you kill, you know, very, very specific tunes. So, and this is in TBA and in Otherworld Battle as well. So, now that you know how to use them properly, you can go and execute with them, and you could still compete in a decent level. Like, I was doing this in, you know, Challenger, and I had like 200 points ahead of the Challenger mark. So this is like a decently high level, and all of these tunes were level 80. Like, I know you guys may think, oh, but you didn't test a tier 4 and it's incomplete. Well, I'm basically showing you guys that you don't need to tier 4 them. You can keep them at level 80 and they can still do a job for you. Just so long as you tactically are aware of how to use them. And that goes with a lot of sub-meta. Not all the sub-meta, but a lot of them. You could keep a lot of the sub-meta at tier 3 and they will still do a job for you. All you have to do is just know what you're doing. And, you know, this is the fun part about PvP, is that there is some tactical diversity that's finally being built after all of these years, and I hope that they continue to improve it and create balance. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you guys need a follow-up or if you have any questions. More reviews coming. I'll see you guys in the next one.